Committee yields back. Chair now recognizes the Chair of the Full Committee, Mr. Guthrie, for his 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the recognition. I appreciate y'all being here. And I said, this is critically important, and it absolutely makes sense that we can take products that are going to be discarded and reclaim them and put them back in the stream of commerce instead of putting them in the earth to be buried for some future generations to discover. We need to use them now.
Every year, millions of lithium-ion batteries end up in landfills across America. But right now in Congress, there's a fight over a simple question. Is this stuff garbage meant for burial, or is it a hidden treasure? The answer is more controversial than you'd think.
That the current RCRA regulations make domestic recovery of valuable materials from lithium-ion ore batteries more difficult and puts U.S. at a disadvantage to countries like China, where the black mass that results from shredding lithium-ion ore batteries is treated as a valuable commodity.
Every year, millions of lithium-ion batteries end up in landfills across America. But right now in Congress, there's a fight over a simple question. Is this stuff garbage meant for burial, or is it a hidden treasure? The answer is more controversial than you'd think.
Exempted or excluded from definition of solid waste by its regulations. Did you get all that?
I believe so. Thank you very much for the question.
And then could increased coordination, communication between EPA and federal agencies help deal with this? So if you kind of throw that in as well. Okay. There you go.
All right. EPA's definition of solid waste is very complicated. It's based largely on the nature of the material that's being processed, as well as the manner in which it's going to be managed, in this case recycled. And with black mass in particular, since you were asking about that, generally, if it's black mass from a used product, it would be viewed as a spent material that is partially reclaimed. This is under EPA's regulations, and therefore it would still be viewed as a waste by EPA. It would also then potentially be hazardous, depending upon the composition of the black mass.
So communication between EPA, if they communicated with other agencies, would that be helpful in trying to get to the bottom line of this?
I think that might be helpful. You mentioned in particular China. China takes the position that black mass is not a solid waste if it meets certain standards, and that creates as I indicated, a disadvantage to the U.S. because because they're viewing it as a non-waste that they can take in freely. Whereas in the U.S. it would be...
So the same material is a freely traded raw resource on one side of the Pacific and a heavily regulated hazardous waste on the other. Which side do you think investors and factories are going to flock to?
Mass recovery from lithium-ion ore batteries as a valuable commodity encourage the growth of domestic battery recycling.
If black mass is viewed as a non-waste, then it can move without all the restrictions of the RCRA regulations. It can also then be processed without compliance with those regulations. They would still be subject to other regulatory regimes like the Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Act, but the stringent hazardous waste rules would not apply, as would be the case, for other kinds of materials.
The key word here is investment. The moment you legally brand something as waste, you cut off most of the money that would otherwise flow into that industry. That's exactly Klesky's point. Even plastic recycling doesn't treat its intermediates as waste, but somehow batteries get a different set of rules.
You'd like to on this subject?
Yeah, no, appreciate it. Thank you, Representative, for the question. I think when you look at black mass as a waste, I mentioned in my testimony, waste, when you're classifying something as waste, it has waste economics as well that come along with it. And that there's certain burdens and restrictions that carry that definition. If you classify it as a product, which it is an intermediate product, it contains valuable critical minerals, that attracts different investment. It's a material that can be used further downstream in the entire process of the supply chain. So there's other industries that have intermediates that aren't called waste as well. When you're recycling plastics or other types of devices as well, they're not considered as a solid waste. They're considered as an intermediate product, which is what black mass is.
Okay, thanks. So I'm going to switch a little bit to Mr. Buckingham. So what type of contaminated sites are good candidates for recovery of critical minerals? And when EPA identifies contaminated sites for remediation, how does it coordinate with other federal agencies?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Guthrie. We're primarily focused on abandoned uranium mine waste, where you'll typically find large amounts of uranium and vanadium and radium located in those sites. But in addition, the technology can also be used for tailings recovery. So we've got strong partnerships with a group called Element USA, as well as Regeneration, that are focused on reprocessing tailings. So looking at copper, gold, primarily in those applications.
This isn't just about batteries. Even abandoned uranium mines are sitting on recoverable copper and gold. America is literally sitting on a buried fortune that's been written off as worthless for decades. The real obstacle is just how the law defines it.
Sufficient now, or do we need to update the process between interagencies?
We would, for Superfund sites and EPA-led, we would, I think the Legacy Mine Cleanup Act is a very strong step in helping a lead agency with the Office of Mountains, Plains, and Deserts streamline coordination.
Thank you. Well, my time has expired, then I will yield back time I don't have.
In the end, Congress is facing a question that sounds simple but carries massive consequences. Could changing one legal definition free America from depending on China? This decision could determine who becomes the next battery superpower.